So, hello everyone. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining. So, let's start. So, gardening for beginners, of course, it's telling you some of the basic, basic of how to start your home garden. So, right now, this is very important during ECQ because we were able to appreciate the importance of our farmers. And again, before supermarkets were there were gardens. And I think in sorry. Sorry guys, I have a toddler with me. So yeah, there were gardens, and I think before there were in the provinces, it's more people are more into gardening rather than going to public markets or supermarket. So the question is right now is why gardening? For me, gardening is a great form of exercise. I would agree to that because when I started gardening last year, like a full-fledged gardener in our farm, I lost weight a lot, and it's a good exercise for me, of course, when I go out and um, like in the early morning, I wake up at 6 a.m. to check on the plants, to check on my succulents, to check on my vegetable garden in the farm. And also, gardening helps me alleviate my stress, and it works as an ecotherapy as well. Sometimes when you are surrounded by nature and you're surrounded by plants, it just, gives you a peaceful mind and a quiet time. And it gives me, it also extends my patience. Because when it comes to gardening, I believe you have to have a lot of patience, and it will be tested once you start with growing your own food and growing your own plant. And I think some of you here are has started their garden. I'm sorry, has started their garden and planting your own food because just to avoid the lines or experience of growing your own food, especially that it's very limited. And as a mom as well, I I decided to. We are staying here in Talisay City, so we're not in Carcar. So it was very hard for me to adjust because I don't have a big garden lot here where I can use. So I'm going to discuss also how to make use of your space if you're in the city and do urban gardening. And there are a lot of tips and tricks because I was able to do that. I was able to harvest already some of my vegetables during the ECQ. And even though I just have a limited space in our home. And one thing is having vegetables ready available. It also, as a mom, it also extends my budget. I don't rely on meat, on processed food. Vegetable is really good as well. So you can add into your daily meals. So before I start, I'd like to introduce myself. Sorry, guys. Okay, so I am Sweet Veloso Selma. We do have a family farm in Carcar City, which is located at Barangay Valencia. It's named Sundaze Farm. Our farm, we really started cultivating the farm year 2012 to 2013. But during those times, I was just, relying on our workers and our farmers, on my parents. My dad started with cultivating, growing fruit-bearing trees, and we have livestock. We have goats, we have chickens, we have cows, but it's not a full-fledged production. And we're not selling our fruits, our vegetables. We're giving them to our workers, or we are keeping it for our family, or sometimes to our neighbors, to our relatives. But we're not really selling them in publicly. But came in 2019, last year, February, we decided to open it to the public. And that's where I came in as I have a background in marketing. So I decided to help my parents do, help them to market the place. So I really, my ultimate goal for the farm is to make it as an agritourism spot in the south of Cebu. So right now we're working on with the Department of Agriculture on how to make it an agritourism spot, and of course future agricultural trainings and farming, because I really want to spread the information, especially to the young or the millennials right now who doesn't really or doesn't know, or who, you know, some likes to grow plants aesthetically because like they want to have their houses because it's Instagrammable and stuff like that. But not just like not just the aesthetic side, but also learning how to grow your own food and the importance of growing your own food. And of course, I am also a lifestyle and mommy blogger. Um, I share my insights on my Instagram stories, mostly on my Instagram stories, and then help also other mommies right now who became plant mommy and plant daddy because of the ECQ. So this is in a way for me to spread the information also, not just for the mommies, daddies, titos, titas, but also to the millennials. Okay, so so let's start. With this one, I'm just giving you a short overview, but the entire topic is, it's not long, but there's a lot of information, guys. So if you have like questions, please do wait lang. Please do tell me, or you know, just unmute and raise your questions along the way. Okay, so most of the like the topic would consist of what to grow, where to grow, how to grow, some do-it-yourself gardening tips, plant care, and easy tricks. So before we start, we have to remember the condition that we are in, or in the country that we are in, which is the Philippines. Normal vegetable products that we see in our public markets, that would give us an overview of what kind of vegetables that we can grow here. Of course, you cannot expect to grow strawberries. I tried growing strawberries on my own, but it was really hard, probably because of the climate or the weather condition that we have. I also tried to grow kiwi, but it was very hard. So I realized that I just have to do to deal with whatever soil condition, whatever weather condition we have in the Philippines, and you know, do not expect a lot of what we can grow. But there are indoor plants or vegetable plants that, you know, we can always regrow, especially herbs are good here in the Philippines because of our weather. Basically, these are the common seeds or common plants that we see, and then vegetable we see in the public market. So whatever we see in the public market, not in groceries or supermarkets, ha? Kasi the groceries and supermarkets, they import some of the vegetables, especially like mga expensive vegetables sa gustong maging organic or healthy person. So these are just the normal that we see if you go to Carbon or to any public market, in Naga Public Market or your local public market. So pechay, squash, eggplant, malunggay, which is readily available. It's even in our neighbor's backyard. And I realized that this time, during the ECQ, there were a lot of malunggay trees around the area, but like after a month or two, I realized that wala na, putol na. Some of them cut the malunggay tree. I don't know, probably they cut the malunggay tree and tried to plant it on their garden or in their backyard. And some of the malunggay leaves were gone as well. So, you know, people are hoarding and getting malunggay trees from their neighbor. And you would be lucky if you have like 2 or 3 malunggay trees, because you can alternate by getting the leaves. And it takes a lot of time, especially right now. It's hot in the Philippines. It's summertime. And for the past few days, it was really, really hot. So it's not sayang. And it's not bad, pero you need to water more your plants this time kasi drought season siya. And then kangkong, okra, tomato, peppers, ampalaya, and string beans. So these are vegetables na kahit hindi kayo green thumb, you can actually plant this one and it will germinate or it will grow. So assured na yon. But if you start with strawberries or kiwi, that would take time. Lemon would take time also. But these kinds of vegetables, you can grow it in your backyard doing like kahit seed lang na free or nakikita nyo sa hardware. Or even your seeds from the vegetable that you bought from the public market, you can actually plant it right away. And it's a sure thing that these plants will grow. All right. Okay, so new to gardening, people are saying that it's hard, but for me, I would tell you start small and build your garden. I did start small. Okay, so let's continue. You start small, guys, and then after that, you build your garden. I started with herbs, and then of course, I killed a lot of herbs. But after doing trial and error, I was able to build a good batch of herbs. And the feeling of cooking your own food and you just pick herbs from your kitchen area, that's really nice. Parang I feel that I'm a master chef already. So most of you told me you chatted that you don't have a green thumb, and I understand that because not everyone is born with a green thumb. I think my father has a green thumb in our family, and it was my second brother who got that talent. And for me, when I remembered when I was in college, I always kill even a cactus that can live for a long time, or if you don't need to water them regularly. But I killed a cactus and a bamboo plant, and it was the easiest one of the easiest plant that you can actually take care. But I think because right now I'm a mother, I was able to tender more on how to take care of a plant because it's the motherly instinct. But you don't have to worry about being a green thumb. For me, you can actually become, you can actually start a garden even though you don't have a green thumb. It's just patience, guys. Trial and error, research and learning new stuff, and of course remembering that. And you should always remember that a plant is like a human being. You have to feed them. It's like how you feed your bodies. So you have to feed them, you have to take care of them, and you have to remember. And there are it's a very long process, but you start small again. Okay, you can maybe start with herbs or your veggie scrap, or you can start with cuttings that we're going to discuss. So I'm just giving you an overview so that you would understand, and it's not a foreign term for you. So here are some of the basic terms. Cuttings. Let's start with cuttings. Cuttings is, of course, it's understandable, but it's a stem cutting from from one plant, and you can actually multiply them just by using one cutting. So we will talk about stem cuttings more later. You will see an example on how to do the right cutting and make sure that it will really root or have a well-established root, and it will really survive in a soil. And then clay soil, because mostly, especially in Cebu, a lot of places here have clay soil. In our farm in Carcar, it is composed of clay soil. So we have to do a lot of mixture. We have to amend the soil and so that it will make it to make it fertile. Kasi if you just rely on clay soil, mahirap, hindi siya good for your plants. Compost, I don't know if you know about compost, guys. Tinuturo to noon when I was in high school. And I think not all schools right now are teaching their students how to compost. So, kasi I have a staff in the farm. She's a high school student, and I asked her if her teacher has taught her in science about composting, and hindi nila alam. So, I don't know if you guys know what is a compost. Fertilizer, obviously, it's a nutrient that you add onto your plant to boost and to make it healthy. It's like fertilizer in human term, it's our vitamins. Germination is a method where you will start the seeds. So before anything grows, you germinate properly. It's where you start. That's where we will start later. Kasi minsan, we just plant, and we don't know how to germinate, or there are secrets on how to germinate properly. Loam soil naman, loam soil is a mixture or a fertile soil. It has a perfect mixture of nutrients, of sand, yun lahat na, and ready for potting. It's like a potting mix. Pero minsan kasi yung loam soil, it's good for farmers and gardeners, and ginagamit siya. That's why you have to amend and add nutrients pa before you can actually say na loam soil. But if you touch it, it's really good. It doesn't create a lump. It's not heavy. It's yung normal soil, and it's colored dark brown to black. Those are the perfect soil for your garden. Sand, it's pretty obvious. If you go to the beach, it's sandy. But you should know that sand is also important, and we put sand in our soil mixture para it will ease, or it will aid in the drainage of your water. Kasi wala talaga, if kung nasa ano ka na talaga, if nasa province ka talaga, you might be able to see a perfect fertile soil. But most dito sa Cebu, even in our house in Talisay, we have more on the clay side na soil. So we have to amend and put more fertile or loam soil. And then seedlings, transplanting, we're going to discuss that. That means it's a change of location. So if from the seedling or from the seeds that sprouted, ito transfer mo siya, parang ganon. And then container gardening, which is really applicable to everyone, especially if you are living in a condo, an apartment, a city house na parang walang backyard. So this is very important. Deadheading. So why is there deadheading? Deadheading is killing, or not killing, but getting rid of the flowers. So any plant na may flower, and if you remove the flower, that means deadheading. Importance is kailangan siyang, because if you have a plant, some of us doesn't get rid of the dried flowers. But if you continue to put the dried flowers there or leaves, it will take the nutrients out from the healthy plants. So yeah, para siyang, how can I give you the layman's term? Parang pimple, you have to get rid of all the impurities on your face, or impurities, so that it will start to glow again. And that's how deadheading is. Direct sowing is planting directly into the soil. Pesticide, I think everyone knows what pesticide is. Pruning or trimming, that's cutting down, making it, letting the air flow into the plant, and raised beds. So yon, we will talk more about the basic terms in gardening along the way. So I just want to share this to you so that you will, have an idea na of what I will be talking about. So let's start with seed versus seedling. Because I get a lot of questions on Instagram, like how do they start with their gardening journey? For me, you can start both, but there are advantages and disadvantages, guys. Because for seeds kasi, you have to remember right now in ECQ, you cannot get, we'll talk about the situation we have right now, in ECQ, it's so hard to get seeds because the hardware stores are closed. Usually you find seeds in hardware, in Ace Hardware, in Belmont, in City Hardware. They have seeds available there. And it's really hard to get that. And if you will buy online also, the delivery is hard, shipping is hard. And some of the garden stores in Cebu are also closed. So mahirap siya. I have my seeds, but the thing is, when I started here in Talisay, I don't have seeds with me because I left it in Carcar. So what I did was, I took out the seeds from the vegetable that I use. So specifically, nagamit ko yung bell pepper, yung squash seeds, cucumber seeds, and then calamansi seeds. In calamansi, out of 100 ata, parang 5 lang yung nabuhay. But for the squash, it really grew. A lot of them. The only problem that I have with squash right now is it's starting to grow, and you have to put a huge, or you have to transfer them to a huge place. Kasi para siyang vine. So nag-grow siya. So I need to make sure I am looking for a perfect spot for my squash. So yon. So the seeds that I have right now are from the vegetable that I purchased in Colon, in Carbon last March. So nagamit ko siya. And from that also, yung cuttings then. If you don't have seeds, you can also do cuttings. So let's discuss about the advantages of having seeds. Okay, so as you can see, seeds is like, the buto. It's it's not, there's no foliage, there's no leaves. Unlike for the seedling, it grew already, and if you will buy that one, there's a higher chance that it will grow, or there's a higher chance na you can harvest after 1 to 2 months. But for seeds, it's a trial and error, because yes, it is cheap. You can buy a pack of seed for 100 seeds, or 150 seeds in a pack. It costs 30 pesos to 50 pesos. I was able to buy my own seeds in Shopee. There are online garden shops on Shopee, and then also in hardware stores. So you can actually start, but it has like 100 in a pack. So it's cheaper. The lemon seeds, no, you don't have to peel them. You just have to germinate them properly. I was able to grow my lemon seeds, like 4 pots of lemon seeds in Sundaze farm from the lemon talaga. Just put it in a place na hindi masyadong sunny. It should be, if you have if you have a greenhouse, you can make your own greenhouse in your backyard. Dapat hindi siya sa full sun. Shaded siya. So parang indoor greenhouse. That's where I put my lemon seed before it became a seedling, and I had to put it outside na for full sun exposure. So let's go back. For this seed, yes, it's cheap. But the problem is it takes a little longer to grow. You need to have trial and error to germinate it properly. And that's what I've said, the lemon seeds, I did not peel it or anything. From the lemon, I took it out, and then I dried them. After drying them, that's where I planted them on the soil directly. But the thing is, I put them inside my little greenhouse. I have a little greenhouse. It's para siyang tent. Para siyang tent. Nabili ko siya I bought the greenhouse from HMR here in Cebu. They have a greenhouse there, a do-it-yourself greenhouse. So it's like a tent where I put all of my seeds there, so that it's a bit, I can close it, and parang mainit siya, but I don't put it under the heat of the sun. Shaded area pa rin, but it's close. It's enclosed, so that the heat will help germinate the seeds under. And once I saw like seedlings or the foliage sprouting, that's the time that I took it out from the greenhouse, and doon na siya kasama sa mga other seedlings outside. But the problem with seeds is, minsan, if you buy seeds, you have to check the expiry date, because there are expired seeds. And that's the downside or disadvantage also if you're going to buy from online shops. Because you're not sure if these are expired seeds. Unless if you buy the entire pack. Kasi minsan nire-repack nilang yung seeds so that it's a bit, it's cheaper. But if you buy the entire pack, it's a bit expensive. It doesn't cost, it costs like 100 or 150 for the entire seed pack. So what the online shops will do, they repack it, but you're not sure if it is a good seed or not. And then, of course, if it's damaged seeds, kasi minsan, during the shipping, delivery, if it's too hot or the temperature or the packing itself is bad, it will also affect the seeds. Because I have some good seeds na nasa pack pa, but nakalimutan ko siyang ilagay sa loob ng bahay. I just left it outside my gardening area. So it was exposed to the heat of the sun for a couple of days. And even though it was a really good seed, kasi bagong bili pa, expiry date is after 3 years pa, but it did not germinate na talaga. I think it's because it was too hot at the time and it affected the seeds. For expired seeds, there's an expiry date sa packet. But the thing is, with the repacked seeds, you don't really know. That's why there's a downside in buying from online stores. Because when they repack it, they don't give you the date when it will expire. So, yun yung problema. So, ang ginagawa ko, kahit na hindi ko sure if expired or not, I just try to plant them, germinate them well. And if it doesn't really germinate after a week or two, that means bye-bye. It's not a good seed. So, might as well buy seeds from hardware store or physically nakikita mo, and there's a expiry date at the back because you will know those are good seeds. Or fresh seeds from your vegetable. You can always rely on that. Okay, so for seedling, it may cost a little bit more because for seeds, you get, like, for example, in Ace Hardware, 1 packet of eggplant or okra seeds. It's around 60 to 75 pesos. One pack na siya. But for seedling, sometimes one seedling lang na plant, yung baby plant lang, it costs 50 pesos. So if, as you can see, if this seedling, and then the roots are growing outside na the soil, so that means it needs room to grow. You can transfer them or you can transplant them to another soil. So yes, that's one thing. Downside ng seedling is transplant shock, especially if yung nabili mo na seedling is from a store and they have good soil. And then when you transfer them to your soil that is not properly mixed with nutrients or not ready as a potting soil, yun, nagkaka-problem ng transplant shock. And then minsan, when you transplant, the best time to transplant is morning and evening, not midday, kasi it's mainit. So you should consider the weather condition. And then early morning around 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. At least it's not so hot. And then in the evening or 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. At least hindi siya masyadong mainit. But in between, I don't really recommend that one because it's so hot and it really affects, the temperature affects the seedling. Also, your potting mixture should also not be dry and it's also not wet. Kasi there are some, when they do transplant and it rained, like for example, it rained yesterday, and then when they do the transplant, so they're very excited and the soil is still wet and soggy. It's not a good soil for you to transplant. Make sure na it's a bit parang, hindi naman siya dry, but moist. The moisture content is good. Moist lang siya. Enough for the soil to grow. It's not really sticky. And then, of course, bad seedling. Merong bad seedling if you're going to buy it from local garden shops, because sometimes local garden shops put, I don't know if you know, rice hull, yung parang humay. I don't know if you all speak Bisaya, but yung they put the rice tapisik in the Bisaya term. When they put the seedling, they put the rice hull on top of it. It's a good thing because it retains the moisture in the soil. But also the downside is there's a tendency that you will have ants on your seedlings. And then if your seedlings are like a bit sweet, or ants would affect the entire seedling. So it's a bad seedling. That's one disadvantage lang talaga. So each part depende lang sa inyo kung ano yung gusto nyo. So for preparation, we're going to talk about the area, different kinds of area, different kinds of material, and tools in gardening. Especially right now, I think most of you are in the city. Do you have your own backyard where you can have a lot of space, or you prefer planting in pots or small containers? Anyone? So let's start with the area. Okay, that's good. Spots in small areas, small gardening. All grass, Charmaine. you start to get rid of, or no, you can actually do, if it's all grass, you can actually, there's also like this, the raised beds. This is what I call about the raised beds. If you see the picture, you can actually use wood and level, do like a little box. So you don't need to get rid of the you don't need to get rid, if you have a big lawn, you don't need to get rid of the grass, okay? You can have small boxes like this. Coke bottle, yes, you can also do that. But if you have a big lawn, you're lucky. You can actually do raised beds. Raised beds is good if you have a huge lawn area and you don't want to get rid of the grass. So you can just use a little bit of space and make small boxes. Use wood, recycled woods, or wood pallet. You can buy wood pallet at City Hardware. It's very cheap. Or some, if you go to Pier 1 or Pier 2, you can get free wood pallets. You can use that. Yes, bamboo you can use. You can use also bamboo to make little boxes. And that's where you start your raised beds. So this is one example of a backyard garden. So if you're lucky to have this, that's nice. Kasi space is not a problem. You can grow as tall as cucumber. You can put the vines for cucumber, and you can actually like group them by boxes. Next would be, this is the most important thing, the container garden. So if you have limited space, you use buckets, gallons, plastic bottles. You have, right now it's ECQ. I don't have much pots, and I wasn't able to buy one. So there's not available hardware. So what I did was made use of the plastic bottles that we use during ECQ, and sometimes the small tin cans. You can actually use that because right now we have a lot of canned goods. So the tin cans is really good, and you can make sure to poke holes, okay? So for drainage, always poke holes under the bottles, under the tin cans, and then buckets, gallons, you can also do that. Just do whatever you have right now. The big bottles of water, you can actually, yung gallon, 5 gallons ata ng water, you can actually cut it into half. That's what I did. Or for 4 or 6 liters of water, I just cut it in half, and then I put my seedlings there because we don't have that much space in our home here in Talisay. So this is what they call container gardening. So here, an example, you can use the tin can, and then you can use also tires if you have tires at home. And then here's some of example of plastic bottles. And this one is vertical garden, okay? So you can use plastic bottles for vertical garden. This is really good for indoor plants or kangkong or your herb. So if you have a condo and then you have a little terrace in your condo, you can do a vertical garden of all your herbs if you don't have that much space for pots. So you can do herbs and then um, you can just put it on the side and start with your herbs. And this is the one that you asked earlier, hydroponics. So I'm just gonna discuss a little bit more about hydroponics. Okay, so hydroponics. I think alam na most of you knows about hydroponics because someone asked about hydroponics earlier. So this is the kind of method wherein you don't need soil to grow your own plants. You just need water and the nutrients for your water. Okay, so for hydroponics, this is very, very easy. For me, it's the easiest. I was able to harvest my lettuce and pechay for at least 3 to 4 weeks. May pang salad na ako. And I did not even have the full hydroponic system. It's just the styrofoam. Styrofoam, as you can see on the other picture here. So you don't need soil. So yung problem ng mga some of us have problem with planting in soil. We don't have soil. We don't have a garden. Okay. Here in Cebu, we have this is Cebu Hydroponics. Have Cebu Hydroponics Group in Marketplace. I forgot to put talaga the details of their names, but I know that it's Cebu Hydroponics, and they sell the plant nutrients. They make their own plant nutrients, but for my nutrients, I bought it from Shopee because it's a bit cheaper compared to the ones here in Cebu. And then I can buy it in bulk. It's a snap solution, which is being promoted by the Department of Agriculture. So the Department of Agriculture approved it. And kasi most here in Cebu, they make their own hydroponics nutrients. So yes, it is okay, but I still prefer the ones that being advertised by Department of Agriculture kasi I'm sure na the nutrients really work. So it's a snap solution A and B. There's a shop in Shopee. Yes, I will share to you later the shop. Okay, so let's start first with the normal hydroponic system. If you look at the ano ba yan? Left side ng screen, there is like the pipe area. Okay, these are the normal hydroponics that they use in farms, and this is they use a water pump so that there's no stagnant water and there's no mosquitoes. Okay, so typical to na hydroponic system. And some also use aquarium underneath. So parang there's a pump also that circulates the water. So there's no mosquitoes. But the thing is, if you use the styrofoam, that's the problem for most farmers, like small scale farmers in the Philippines, because they cannot afford a pump. So they were asking Department of Agriculture, how can they do their own hydroponics? And this is one of the solution. Fish tank pump is okay. Yes. There are some, they have the fish tank below the hydroponics. They have the hydroponics piping, and below it is a fish tank. So it works both ways. So let's go back. The Department of Agriculture, together with the University of the Philippines, they came up with the styrofoam hydroponic system. The main concern for them was the mosquitoes. That's why you can see there are tapes in the hole so that it seals off everything and walang mosquito talaga. And then you put it in a shaded area, or an area with a roof. Kasi even though it has tapes on it and no mosquitoes can come in, but if you put it outside and if it rains, the rainwater would go inside the pots, and it will actually contaminate the nutrient solution or the water and nutrient solution in your hydroponics box. So ito yung ginagamit namin sa farm because I'm not really techie, so we did not have a hydroponics piping with the water pump. So I experimented with my styrofoam. I bought one from Carbon, and then I made holes in it. They have small, you can buy styrofoams like this in Carbon if you're from Cebu. You can buy this, or if you're in Manila, I think in Recto, you can buy like this. Parang these are the styrofoam that you use in grapes. If it's not available, you can use the small styrofoam, and you can put 4 pots, small styrofoam that you can buy in Ongking King in Carbon Market. I bought one, I experimented, and you can put 4 pots there in one small styrofoam for ice. And you can start your hydroponic system. Just make sure that you seal them with seal them properly with tape, so that hindi siya, no stagnant water, it's not prone for mosquitoes. Okay. 3 to 4 weeks, you can start harvesting your lettuce. The only thing you need is the snap solution or the nutrients, and then the seedlings, plus cocoa peat. I think you know. Do you know cocoa peat? Yung from coconut, that they shave off from the coconut fruit, the dried coconut fruit. Those are the cocoa peat. But make sure that you wash the cocoa peat properly, like a lot of times. For me, I wash my cocoa peat um, 4 to 6 times just to remove the nutrients, kasi it has full of nutrients and I don't want that to contaminate on my hydroponic system. So you can do hydroponics with cucumber, with your herbs also. You can also do that. Peppers. I tried with lettuce and pechay. And the tomatoes are also good. But with lettuce and pechay, you can actually, like, it's the fastest plant that you can grow with hydroponics. Okay, and this one is one of my favorite. It's microgreens. So if you're more into the healthy side of veggies, and you like to make your own protein shakes, salads, this is also one of the easiest way to make your own greens. And microgreens are like twice or thrice healthy, or has the nutrients than your regular huge plants. So mas nutrition, it has a higher content of nutritional value. That's why microgreens are very expensive if you go to organic shops, because they considered it as yung parang the expensive food for nutrient for people who wants to be healthy. So with microgreens, you can actually grow wheatgrass. You can actually grow lettuce, but in a little, yung parang ganito lang, microgreens lang, small content, but it has a higher nutritional value. You can grow broccoli, cauliflower. There are microgreens for broccoli and cauliflower, lettuce, radish, a lot. And it's very easy. You can actually you can start harvesting your microgreens as early as 7 to 14 days. So at least 2 weeks, you have microgreens already. You can put that in your salad. Most restaurants put that as a garnish on their meals. That's why it's expensive. And then some, they blend it. What we have here, I've seen microgreen seedlings because here in Cebu, we don't have really shops to sell, but I've seen in Ace Hardware. I was able to buy in Ace Hardware and Metro Gaisano Hardware. They have microgreens for broccoli and radish and lettuce. So you can get that from from the hardware, but it's limited lang, not really, not all, because their packaging it's very bulk. There's a lot, because when you put them, you need to scatter a lot of microgreens. Yes, you can. Chia seeds, you can actually make your own chia. If you have chia seeds, try. And then if you have tauge, the mungos that you have, the mungo seeds, you can also do that. So you can, yeah, chia, you can. True. The chia seeds, you can put that in your salad, or you can do your own microgreens. But it's not 100% lahat ha. There are just some good seeds lang. Much better if it's an organic chia seeds. Yes, you can eat the seeds for salad. You can put it in your smoothie bowl. I love to put it in my smoothie bowl as garnish. And the wheatgrass, I have the microgreens for wheatgrass. I put it on my shake. Yes, you can put in a baking pan container or any plate, a small plate, or the little tub, the how do you get the plastic tub. You can also use that one. Small lang. For the chia seeds, I'm not so sure with chia seeds because I just experimented with what I had with the chia seeds that I have that I always put on my smoothie. So some of them grew, but it's not like 100. Like I can say 40% lang. No fertilization. You can actually use cocoa peat for the microgreens. Use cocoa peat and a little bit of garden soil, but I would prefer cocoa peat because if it's garden soil, then you need to wash the microgreens a lot compared to cocoa peat. Na you can wash the cocoa peat a lot of times, so you know that when it grows, the growth is clean. The seedling is the microgreens are clean. No need to fertilize. Just okay, cocoa peat available in hardware, but we have a supplier here in Cebu. I'm going to share that to you. It's very cheap. They have cocoa peats there. They can give you 1 brick of cocoa peat for 25 pesos lang, and then that 1 brick can you can actually it's like 1 pail or 1 bucket na of cocoa peat. Yeah, Shopee has microgreens also. Okay, let's proceed. There's still a lot. So, okay, so microgreens is the easiest, ha? If you're not really ready to do the big or the huge gardening setup, especially if you are health conscious, microgreens is really good for your diet. Okay, let's proceed. So the materials, there are only 3 materials needed. That's soil, water, and fertilizer. So just a little disclaimer, guys. For fertilizer, I don't usually use the fertilizer that is being sold in stores. I make my own fertilizer because I really wanted that organic feel in my garden. So as much as possible, I don't use any commercialized commercialized fertilizer or or pesticides. So everything is organic. I tried as much as possible. So these are just the important things that you always need to master or remember: the soil, the water, and fertilizer needed. Let's start with soil. We've discussed it already. There are 3 types of soil, which is loam, sandy, and clay. So for the clay, mostly here in Cebu, we have the clay soil. So you can put a little bit of sand and a little bit of normal garden soil to get that correct mixture. But in the Department of Agriculture, I'm sorry, wala pa data. Soil pa di ay. Let's go with water. So the best water that you can water your plant is a bottled spring water and rainwater. Okay. Why? It's because it has less. It doesn't have it's not uncontaminated with nutrients, especially with bottled spring water. But of course, it will be very expensive if you're going to use that. So rainwater is your best option. What we usually do in the farm is we have this sandayong, we trap the rainwater and put it in drums, and that's what we use to water the plants. It saves us a lot, but during rainy season. But if it's summertime, rainwater catchments. In summertime, it was pretty hard for us, so we are using the tap water. True. So we do that, the pails or the drum, so that you can actually water your plants with rainwater. But if there's no available rainwater, you can actually use distilled water or tap water. But the thing is, with distilled water, your plants will not grow as tall and as healthy, especially with tap water that we have right now directly from MCWD, because of course, you know, chlorine. So what we usually do is we still water it with tap water, but we put first the tap water, we store it in drums, and then we expose it or open it for 2 to 3 days, maximum 3 days, to let the chlorine evaporate. So at least wala na siyang chlorine. Hindi na siya chlorinated talaga. So open it up under the heat of the sun, and the chlorine will evaporate. Kasi when it was okay for us when we were using rainwater in the farm, but when you can actually use purified, but then it's expensive. It really is expensive. So rainwater was our option before, but when Carcar Water District started distributing water in our farm, we were very happy because there was an abundant supply of water. But the thing is, we realized our plants did not really grow that tall or that healthy. It was not so green. It was not so, we did not have a good produce or a good harvest. And then we realized it was the chlorine that's making it, So we have to put all the water in drums, let it expose under the heat of the sun up to 3 days, para there's no chlorine na, and then you can use the water. Then he said that you can use well water, atabay from tabay. But the thing with well water is it's good because it's for free, but then there are a lot of nutrients, a lot of hidden nutrients like potassium, calcium inside the water. It's rich in nutrients, man. So mahirap din siya, and it will affect the growth of your plants. So for me, the easiest is the healthiest or the best is rainwater, and then second na yung tap water, but you have to get rid of the chlorine. Okay, and next is the tools. So for gardening, right now we are actually having problems with getting the tools that we have, but there are just basic tools that you need. So pruning scissors, gloves, shovel, gardening fork, watering can. Yes. So those are just, but if you are becoming a plantita, of course, it's really nice to have your gardening tools, right? So when I started with gardening, I was really planning to become a gardening mama. And I really invested in gardening, like gardening tools that I bought from hardware stores. And then I realized that these are just the basic na kailangan mo talaga. And you don't need that much. Except if you are growing succulents and special plants, that's the time that you need very sophisticated garden tools. So let's start with pruning scissors. I always tell our staff, if you don't have a scissors right now because it's ECQ, you can use a sharp scissor. Okay, it doesn't need to be pruning scissors. You can use a very sharp scissor, basta sharpen it lang, and it's better to have one garden tool per plant. Okay. Always remember that plants are like human beings. They have their own diseases and pests. So sometimes we don't think about that, or if we're new in gardening, we don't really think about it. And for example, we use one scissor in trimming or cutting our basil. And then we didn't know that our basil leaves, or the basil that we have, has fungi, or it has leaf spots, or it has a disease na, but we're not sure. We don't know because we don't have any idea. And the same scissor, you will use it in cutting your rosemary or your lavender. Trust me, guys, after a few weeks, your rosemary will have the same disease, and the same disease with the lavender as well. It's like what we're talking about right now, the pandemic. So each plant also has their own diseases. And if you're going to use the same tools from one plant to another, it will contaminate all of your plants. So all of your plants will get infected. I didn't realize this one until it happened with my roses and with my basil, with my lemon, and then bell pepper, and the rest. It already infected the entire garden because we were just using one scissor, and then my staff did not even care to wash it or disinfect it. So always remember, if you can have 3 or 4 scissors, normal scissors lang ha, not the pruning scissors. If you can have that, then it's better because because we sometimes forget, man, if we're going to transfer from one plant to another, especially if we're going to trim our plant or like use the shovel, use the gardening fork from one plant to another, and we forget and we transfer to another plant. We don't mind actually, but again, it's contaminating. It's usually in the pest or the disease starts in the soil. So okay, so here's how to take care of our tools. Okay, so number 1, of course, clean it. If you do it by batches, you can do it in buckets or pail and put it there. Dishwashing soap or any soap is okay as long as it's clean. There's a tendency for us, we get very lazy, and when we don't clean our shovel afterwards or the gardening fork afterwards, so there's still soil in it. I would always advise you to always clean it because, again, in the soil, the diseases and the diseases or bacteria of each plant always starts in the soil before it goes to the plant itself. And sand, if you have wooden handles so that you won't get blisters. The importance of sharpening is because when you try to trim or cut down your plant, there's a term in Bisaya, ayaw samari. So that's what we usually do. Make sure it's sharp so that one snip. Because if you're going to snip it over and over again, the cuttings is not good. So when you plant it, you will not have good roots from it. So it's like it's a waste of your cuttings. So at least one snip and sharp tools. Oil it so that it doesn't get rusty, of course. And then disinfect, okay? You can disinfect, number 1, with alcohol. Alcohol is really good. Very, very important. But if it's too expensive for you, you can disinfect using baking soda. Because what we do in the farm is that I have a sprayer with baking soda and water in it. And after every use, after cleaning, we spray all our tools with baking soda and then leave it under the heat of the sun. If you don't want to use alcohol, but basically you can use alcohol. You can wipe it, swab it with alcohol. But if it's too expensive for you, baking soda is okay. Baking soda is really cheap. It's like 25 pesos for a small box. And it has a lot of uses for your garden. So it's better to actually buy baking soda. So the perfect soil mixture, according to the Department of Agriculture, and if it's available, are this one: the field soil, the manure or tae, and then if you don't have peat moss, you can actually use cocoa peat, perlite, but this is an added ingredient lang. It's optional, okay? It's not a must. Sand, and then vermiculite. So vermiculite and perlite are the same because it helps with the moisture of the soil. But always, ang important lang, if walang perlite or vermiculite, or if it's an added, if it's an added expense. Because usually in our farm, we don't use perlite and vermiculite. I use perlite and vermiculite in indoor plants or in succulents. But with my vegetable garden, we just use the field soil, the normal soil that we have, and then we add sandy soil. because our soil is a little bit on the clay side. So we add sand to aid, sorry guys, to add in the drainage, and then coco peat. Yun lang. And then we add the cow manure for fertilizer to prepare for our garden mixture. But the problem here, if you are in the city, you don't have this kind of you don't have this kind of soil available. You just sorry for sorry if you hear someone crying. But again, if you are in the city and you don't have this available, you can work with your you can work first with your soil, and then you can add compost. Okay, so those are the soil mixtures. So in case you don't have that, you can always use coco peat, just the field soil, the manure, and the sand. If wala talaga, just use your field soil, and you can use composting. So you can use any soil and composting. So I think you are familiar with composting. For composting, it's an organic matter that's been composed, and then that is good. Yeah, fruit skins. Yeah, you have compost peat. That's good. Yay! Okay, for composting, there are different kinds of composting, okay? So let's start with the very, very normal compost pile. So if you have like this, if you have a backyard lawn or a garden and you can put boxes like this, that's good. So for the compost pile, if you have a box like this, you can use this kind. But in our farm, we do use the drum. We have 4 drums that we put the compost pile, and it is by layers. Okay, so for kinds of composting, this is by layer, guys. I don't know if you see this there. Okay, so the layers of wood chips, green leaves, brown leaves, grass clippings, straw, kitchen scraps, or brown leaves. Basic is just the brown material and the green material. So you can see in the diagram, it's a layer of brown, green, brown, green, brown, green. And because of that, when you mix it together, it creates a matter that you cook your own compost. So here in our farm, we use drums, and we have 4 drums so that if mapuno na yung isa, we can put it on another drum, and another drum, and another drum. And usually it takes 2 to 3 months for us to compost 1 drum. And we just mix it all together. Like if you have a gardening fork, you mix it together and make sure that we add the correct moisture. So we water the compost just to add a little bit of moisture. It should not be thoroughly wet or soggy, because that means it's rotten na. So it's not good. And it's not super dry, because if it's super dry, that means wala na. It's not full of nutrients. The only way to determine your compost is when you open it and you smell like an earth smell, or yung parang smell of the soil, or a forest smell. But if it's because when you start composting it in a drum or in an enclosed space, when you open it, it's hot. So that means it's cooking inside. And then what we usually do every other day, we turn it over using the gardening fork. And then we water it just enough, not just enough water, para it adds moisture. That's your blue material. And then it takes, in 1 drum, it takes 2 to 3 months for it to compose properly. And you would see that all of the kitchen scraps, all of the grass clippings, all of the brown material or green material are, parang nag-mash na siya na parang soil. And if you don't have the drums with you, this is the most, this is the in thing right now. You can buy this at any hardware store. I've seen one in Ace Hardware and at Belmont Hardware. They have compost tumblers. It works as the same compost pile, but you don't need to fork or to mix it together. You just rotate it so that it works it mixed all together with you. And this one is good. They have like this in HMR. I saw a little bit, a little smaller version of this in HMR, but I saw a bigger version in Belmont and Ace Hardware. So this is what they do in the US or in India. It's the compost tumbler. And there are two compartments. So you can use the first one, and then if it's full, you can use the other one. Yes, you can actually make I should have posted or I should have put a picture of it. But if you search it in the internet, there's a DIY. They use the same drum, the blue drum that I showed you, and they make a tumbler in it. So one lang siya, and they use another drum for it, and they just open it, and then you manually roll it so to mix it. Another one is worm bean. This is the, how do I call this? Very easy compost and very nice because you can have little worms as your pet. Worm beans. So this is mostly used in the US right now because you can get your compost at most the fastest. And then worms can also, it doesn't smell because worms eat your food scraps right away. So it is by layer. So you have the soil here, which works as your worm bed. So the bedding for your worms. You have a mixture of soil and a little bit of brown material there. And then the worms are here in the middle before you add your food scraps. So with this, on the right side of the picture, you would see by layer there. So you would know that, for example, if your food scraps are here and they finish eating it, so the tendency is the worm will go up and you put another food scrap on top of it and they will go up. They will continue to go up. So that's why it's by layer. So you can interchange. You can put your food scraps above and above and above. Reminder, for this one, you cannot, well, I tried using the earthworms that we have in the farm, the wate, but it doesn't work. You need the African night crawler, ANC, we call them. And I know someone who sells it here in Cebu because they have a vermiculture, or they are raising these kinds of worms. I don't know if they still have, but I bought my worms from them. And we're still trying to breed our worms. Right now, it's still not breeding that much, and it's very hot. So there's some of them died, but we're still trying to breed as much as possible because it is a good business. And for some, they don't have worm beans, but in big farming companies, they do the vermiculture. So this is also a good business, guys. And in farming, they have this vermiculture, which is vermi farming, and it became also a business. So if you're going in that area na, you can start and have this kind of setup. You can sell your worms na, you can sell your vermi soil or vermicompost. You can sell your vermi tea, which is, if you see there's a pipe here, the liquid that goes out from that, because you need to also water your vermiculture, but not regularly, just add a little bit of moisture on the soil. Don't keep it dry, also don't keep it wet, just enough lang. And the water that comes out from there is the vermi tea, which you can use as fertilizer or as spray to your leaves. So that's it. All right, so this is, for me, this is a bit expensive, but best for condos or apartment that wants to do compost. Because number one, the bokashi bin or the bokashi method, it's a Japanese process or fermenting process, and it doesn't require soil. It doesn't require any nutrient or stuff like that. It just requires the bokashi material, or this one, the fermented. It ferments your food scraps. And here you can, in the normal compost pile, you don't need to put dairy, no citrus. Oh no, you can put citrus, but don't need to put dairy or meat in your compost pile. Just the food scrap or vegetable scrap, fruit scrap and vegetable scrap. But in bokashi, the one advantage here is you can put your dairy scraps and your meat, and it's still going to ferment. And in a month time, at least 4 weeks to 6 weeks, you have a good compost of a bokashi. This is what you get for if you have the bokashi bin, because you get the bucket, and then you get the EMF or the solution that you need to put on your bin, and then the food scrap. And you just let it ferment for a couple of weeks, and after 4 weeks you have compost already. No, it doesn't stink. That's why it is using an anaerobic process, and it ferments, so no stink at all. And even if you put dairy or meat, it doesn't stink, because of the mixture that you put, the powder mixture that you put together with the food scraps. So the bokashi package or starter kit, we have available bokashi microorganism kits. There's one in Manila that sells the bokashi starter kit. Here in Cebu, I don't know if they sell the starter kit, but they sell the material or the microorganism material that you put in the bin. So you can actually make your own starter kit using a bucket or the gallon. All right, so very fast na lang guys ha. So germinating seeds, there are several methods. The one is the regular seed germination that you put in soil. Another is paper towel method. So if any one of you has used this one, this is a higher chance of getting good seeds, because when you use a paper towel and you put it somewhere warm, it will really germinate the seeds quickly. And also there's a use of the germinating mat, but it's expensive. And sometimes siya. Another way of jumpstarting your seed is soaking it in water, especially if your seeds has a hard coating in it. So like corn, sunflower, or any peas, you need to put it in water first, soak it in water so that it will open up, and then you can start putting it in the soil. We use the paper towel method because it's very easy and it germinates fast. Okay. And this is the most important. Right now, I did not use much seed. So from regrowing of scraps, here are some of the items that we can regrow. I don't know if you're able to use this one or experimented with this, but here are some of the things that I was able to regrow. Green onions. Now I only bought one green onions and I can use it forever. I don't have to buy another set of green onions, especially for garnish or putting on my meals. The kangkong or water spinach, you just put it into water and then you wait for it for the established roots. Lemongrass and lettuce. So if you have a hard time germinating or planting your lettuce seeds, you can actually try the lettuce that you bought from the grocery and start regrowing them in small cups or small glasses. Make sure to put enough lang water, okay? Do not really submerge them into water, just the bulb, because if you submerge it, there's a tendency that the entire bulb will rot. As you can see, like this in celery, nara jud sa tumoy at the very end or tip. And then we have the cabbage. You can continue regrow them in water. Carrots, you can also regrow them. Make sure when you buy carrots from the supermarket, you actually get the one that has still roots on it. It's better. If you go to the public market, they have a lot. Unlike in supermarket that they cut off the top portion. But in public markets, they have the one that has roots on it, so you can regrow them. The potatoes, there's a lot in public markets because usually in groceries, it's clean na. they don't have the eye, but in public markets, they have the eye. So there you can regrow. Garlic, you can also regrow them, onions, and ginger. So basically, when you buy vegetables, guys, if you're not very comfortable with growing your own seeds, you can start with regrowing your vegetable scrap. So you can start there and you would really feel at ease now with gardening. You will feel very proud of yourself once there's little foliage or little tiny leaves that sprouts from it. And the one that you asked earlier about cuttings. So for herbs, that's the #1 thing that you can do with cuttings. It's taking the stem cuttings and placing them into water to make it. For the cuttings, you have to wait for it to roots before you transfer it to the ground. So it's very easy for herbs, for indoor plants. If you are a plantita, you can use that. The best way to have the cuttings is if you see the nodes or where as you can see the picture, where the leaves are connected, below it, cut below the nodes. And when you put the cuttings in the water, remove the remaining leaves above the node. So you can cut your herbs, your succulents, your indoor plants. You can also use that. So instead of growing into seeds, you can start by cutting. So if you have a herb garden already, if your mom has an herb garden, you can experiment. Basil, you can regrow with. You can regrow them into cuttings. Rosemary, lemon balm, mint, they love to grow in cuttings. And the best way to make sure is to cut at least 45 degrees below the node. Because some of us, we have a problem, we just cut straight, snip, cut. Slanting siya, it has a higher chance of growing new roots. So with plant care, this is what you asked earlier. How will we know? How will we know if the plant is good? How will we know if the plant is this and that? So these are just the 6 items that you always take note. For me, when I started with gardening, I write down. I have a little gardening notebook because sometimes I forget. And each plant, there are a lot of plants in our garden, and I sometimes forget. But I just remember the 6 important plant care. Soil, the soil type. If there are plants that like clay, there are plants that like loamy soil, there are plants that like sandy. So for succulents, they're more on the sandy type. And for vegetables, they're more on the loamy side. And the acidic plants, they're more on the clay side. So there are different plants in each soil type. So at least you have that classification. Soil pH, acidic or alkaline. Acidic plants, normally, they don't really grow that much. You just have to be in the pH level of 6, 7, and 8. That's normal for all plants. For sun exposure, this is the most important, and you should always remember because there are 4 types of sun exposure. Full sun, partial shade, and full shade. So there are some plants who likes full sun, that means 6 hours of direct sunlight in a day. Partial sun, that's 3 to 6 hours, but with shade. Oh no, sorry. Partial sun is 3 to 6 hours with direct sunlight. Okay, and then partial shade, 3 to 6 hours with shaded area, not direct sunlight. And then full shade is 3 hours or less. So hindi siya kailangan na expose sa sun. So maraming plants na gusto yan. Usually rosemary and basil, gusto nila ng full sun. Okay? And then water care, that's important. How much water that you need to put on your plant, or minsan plants only needs to be watered once a day, twice a day, thrice a day. And water your plants early in the morning. And there are some plants na gusto sa gabi, diligan. Do not water your plant in the middle of the day because it defeats the purpose. Usually in the middle of the day, it's so hot. So if you water them, it does not go beneath the soil it just evaporates. So much better water it early in the morning or around 3 to 4 p.m. What kind of fertilizer they need, the pests, the diseases, and if the plant needs trimming, if the plants needs trimming, pruning, or pinching. Okay, so there are plants have a different kind of need. And one way for you to track your plant is you have a plant app. I don't know if you are aware of that. Right now, we are digital. So you can actually use this plant app to identify a plant. Because sometimes when we use a plant, we only know the names, the local names, and we don't know the specific scientific names. So what I usually do is I use the plant app to identify a certain plant, and then I search thoroughly on the plant, get the plant care it needs, the 6 items that it needs, and I remember them. So at least ma-remember na nako siya, and sometimes I put them in my plant app. So I use Plant Snap and Plant Care. Plant Snap for identifying the plant care for putting in notes on what the plant needs. So if you are like confused of what kind of plants, you can just check your Android app store and your iOS plant app store. So these are just samples of plant app. There are a lot of plant apps available, but for me, I use Plant Snap and Plant Care because Plant Snap for identifying, and then Plant Care and Plantified is for putting in notes, and especially for water reminders on my plant. So let's go a brief lang. We're almost done. Fertilizer, as I've said earlier, I don't use commercial fertilizer. I use what we have in the farm. So we have a lot of banana fruits available in the farm. So I use the banana peelings as fertilizer. I soak them in water for 2 to 3 days, and I transfer them in a sprayer or directly water them into our plants. So the nutrients they get is potassium, nitrogen, phosphorus, and magnesium. So walay sayang. You can actually reuse or soak the banana peeling as long as wala pa siya, as long as it isn't rotten yet. And then of course, if it's rotten, you can put that in your compost pit. So see, nothing is a waste. And then next is coffee grounds. So if you are a coffee drinker, you can actually use your coffee grounds in your vegetable garden. It's rich in nitrogen, and it also keeps pests away. So at least it controls the diseases and pests. It works as a pesticide as well. So for coffee grounds, guys, you can, if you don't have coffee grounds or if you're not a coffee drinker, go to your local coffee shop. They have a lot of coffee grounds available. Both Coffee, they give a lot of coffee grounds, free coffee grounds for everyone, especially if you're doing gardening. So they give it for free. And then another one is eggshell. I think, you know, some of your parents are using this before, or you might wonder there are some plants or gardens that are using eggshell because it is rich in calcium and potassium. Just a reminder, always wash your eggshell properly. Don't directly put the eggshell on your garden. Wash it and dry. Let it dry first before you mash it into pieces. Mas maayo, it would be better if you would really mash it like super grounded na siya. And then, if you are a coffee drinker and a tea drinker, you can put tea, or you can soak the tea, green tea, any kinds of tea, or you can use the tea, and then the tea bag, you can put it in your compost pile or on your garden as well, because it will just it's biodegradable. It will just decompose. And for your compost pile, since you water it regularly, there's sometimes the one that the compost pile that you have, especially if you're using the tumbler, sometimes there's water that comes out of it. You can use the compost tea and spray it in your water, especially if you're looking for flower season. Nice, it's really nice to spray it on the foliage or on the leaves. Another fertilizer, you can search for this, fish amino fertilizer, they use scraps of the fish and molasses or muscovado sugar. We haven't used that in the farm because we always run out of fish scraps in Carcar Public Market. But what we use are just the other fertilizer that I've shown you. But with the fish amino acids, it's really nice because it has the highest nutrients of fertilizer. And it is guaranteed that your fruits or vegetables are really good. It tastes good. It tastes sweet. I've tasted one in from the Department of Agriculture that they use the fish amino acids and their tomatoes are really sweet. So pesticides, I have it here. You can search for it, but usually I use natural pesticides. I don't use any kind of pesticides that is being sold commercially. Why? Because again, I want to grow organic food or organic vegetable, and I am all in being eco-friendly. So if you've seen their baking soda, it's true. One of the basic pesticide that I use is baking soda. For cloves, I use that. I've shared that in my Instagram stories that I use cloves and lemon to repel mosquitoes and other aphids, fireflies, fruit flies. They hate cloves, so you can use that. Eucalyptus as well. Cinnamon gets rid of ants and aphids and other fireflies. Bay leaves is an antibacterial, so it works well with fungicide or herbicide. So if you have fungi or if you have fungi on your plants, usually that's the #1 problem in our garden, fungi or fungal infection. You can use bay leaves, baking soda, and neem leaves or neem oil. But the thing is with neem oil, you cannot spray neem oil in the morning, because it will burn your it will burn your, how do you call it, your plant. You can use that in the evening or early in the morning. And then cayenne pepper also some. Also for coffee grounds, as I said, you can use it for pesticide. It's good for slugs. You know what is slugs? The kohol, the snail. Oh, snail. There's a lot of snail. If you have a lot of snail in your garden, you use coffee grounds and beer. It's a natural pesticide. And there's a lot more of pesticides that you can make naturally. Okay. As much as possible, do not use commercial pesticide if you are just maintaining a small garden. Usually for big farmers, they get so tired of controlling the pests. That's why they use pesticide. But for me, if you are growing your own food, use organic pesticides lang. So there you go. And then if you have future questions, I encourage you guys to check on Department of Agriculture. Right now, they are giving out free seedlings and seeds. So if you're from Cebu, they are across the city agricultural office and across Pacific Mall. I'm not from the DA, okay? I'm not from the Department of Agriculture, but it's nice if you want to get free seedlings, they can have it there. And also, they do have trainings, online trainings, so you can get more information from their website. Their training institute is Agricultural Training Institute. Okay?